Namaskar. A warm welcome to all of you on today's webinar on analysis of union budget GST proposals. First of all, my sincere thanks to Tarunji for accepting our invitation and for his valuable time. Thank you, Tarunji.
Thank you,
And
sir.
today, again, our moderator Stuti ji is not here, so I have to coordinate all this. So we all aware that today our honorable finance minister Nirmala Sitharaman ji has presented the union budget 2022, and after that many messages are coming. Somebody are saying it's a good budget, somebody is saying nothing in this budget, कुछ नहीं है middle class के लिए. But we have to see as a tax professionals क्या क्या new changes हैं, what we can guide to our members, our clients. And first time we are doing something different. Earlier in previous few budgets where few webinars in budget, हमारा पहला वेबिनार हमेशा ही डायरेक्ट टैक्स प्रपोजल पे होता था. आफ्टर दैट वी डिड ऑन द indirect tax proposal, GST proposal. But first time we are doing this on the GST proposals. Even Nirmala Sitharaman ji today itself said कि this time record collection of the GST शायद around 1,40,000 1,40,000 crore collections हैं. So normally जो changes हैं it's through the GST council. But Tarun ji is saying कि there are many few changes are there, short changes हैं. So that we will discuss what are the changes, what would be the impact on the our assessees. So that once again my sincere thanks. And yes, कुछ memes भी आ रहे थे कि अगर आपने देखना है अच्छा बजट है देन गो टू द जीटीवी, अगर बुरा है तो गो टू द एनडीटीवी. सो मैनी पीपल्स आर सेइंग. इवन आई वाज सरप्राइज. तरुण जी आपने भी सुना होगा बिफोर दिस बजट काफी लोग मैसेज स्टेटस लगा रहे थे कि नाउ देयर वुड बी द फाइलिंग चार्जेस ऑन आईटीआर. कई वेबसाइट ने भी मैसेजेस फ्लैश करने शुरू कर देते. आई डोंट नो कहां से लेके आ जाते हैं सब कुछ ये. एंड माय ओनली रिक्वेस्ट टू ऑल यू विदाउट ऑथेंटिसिटी. मेरे पास भी कई मैसेज आए थे, सर आपने सीए संसार पे नहीं डाला, ट्वीट कर दीजिए मैडम को, फाइलिंग चार्जेस लग रहे हैं, आईटीआर फाइलिंग चार्जेस. अरे एटलीस्ट कुछ होने तो दो. Without authenticity don't do anything. So apart from this, because time is very less, once again my sincere thanks to Tarun ji because अभी short span of time उन्होंने पूरा पढ़ा भी है या नहीं पढ़ा. But yes, we'll do our best. So thank you very much Tarun ji. Now it's over to you.
Thank you, Vivek ji, and thank you to the entire team of CS Sansaar. And before starting, as we all know, that the budget was presented today morning around 11 a.m. and it was a 90-minute deliberation by the Honorable Finance Minister. Though I'm not an economist or a person who actually can say whether it's a good budget or a bad budget, but definitely I can say that it was not a short-term incentivizing budget considering the elections were due. So it was a long-term considering the long-term growth and the long-term sustainable growth. I should use the term. It was not a focus that we have to win the elections and accordingly we should be giving so many freebies. So that was not the thing. So I can say it was a
तरुण जी
balance.
only एक इंटरप्ट कर रहा हूँ. इसी के ऊपर किसी ने अभी मैसेज भी किया था कि लाइक यू आर सेइंग कि इट्स ए लॉन्ग टर्म बजट वेरी दूरदर्शी. तो किसी ने और ने कहा कि अगले साल नहीं लाना था क्या बजट. सो नाउ यस.
सर मतलब जिसने ये बोला कि अगले साल नहीं लाना था, छोटे छोटे कदम ही फिर आगे चलते हैं. तो इट वाज अ विजनरी बजट एंड नॉट एन इमीडिएट बजट. Having said so, the finance minister did not deliberate on the changes of GST and just mentioned that there was a record collection in December 2020, January 2022, and it was above 1,40,000 crore, the highest during the entire regime. Now, starting on with the provisions. So, in total, there were 25 clauses which pertains to GST amendment, and I have divided those 25 clauses into 16 amendments that have taken place. So I will be using my presentation. Just give me a second to bring it live. So I have divided the entire presentation into 16 amendments that are there in GST Act. So because there was a very limited time, there could be certain confusion or there could be some mistake or clerical mistake in the PPT. So we will have to go to the precise text and then only we should conclude the final understanding. I will not go into the sequence of the amendments. I will go into the sequence in on the basis of my understanding of the entire GST amendment. The first issue that we will discuss is the introduction or the substitution of Section 38. The erstwhile Section 38 was in relation to GSTR 2. And we all know that GSTR 2 has never seen the light. In the first month, that is July, there were some GSTR 2 which were filed. But after that, we have never seen GSTR 2 to be a live form or a form that is to be complied with. Now the government has substituted the entire provision. In simple words, GSTR 2 is now not required. It is not part of the law. उसको कानून से ही हटा दिया गया है. And now we have new section 38, and that section deals with communication of details of inward supplies and input tax credit. Earlier, we were required to furnish details of inward supplies. पहले क्या होता था? We had GSTR 1 section 37 and then section 38, outward supplies 37, inward supplies 38, then section 39 used to be GSTR 3, that is my returns. Now since GSTR 2 was never used, so now they have omitted or they have substituted this section and have brought a new section, and that section basically brings GSTR 2B as a form which will be communicated to the taxpayer. So 38(1) simple words में कहता है that there will be a detail which will be submitted, which will be provided to the recipients, and the form will be notified, and it is basically GSTR 2B which is now given the ground realities even under the GST Act also. So in subsection 1, it is only that we will generate a statement which will be provided to the persons and they will claim credit based on that particular statement. But this was not the end. This was just the beginning of section 38. Then they said that section 38, in section 38 subsection 2, that the auto-populated form, that is GSTR 2B, will be divided in two categories. The form GSTR 2B will be divided in two categories. The first category will contain the credits which are available to the taxpayer. He can avail those input tax credit. And the second category will be where the credit will be denied. The credit will not be eligible to the taxpayer. So the system will automatically understand through back functioning that out of say 100 invoices, you are eligible to take credit of 90 invoices and you are not eligible to take the credit of 10 invoices. This form will intimate us that these credits are available and these credits are not available. It was actually, I was very amazed that how can the form understand that these credits are eligible and these credits are not eligible. They can always say that these credits have been reflected in your account. Now you decide which credit is available and which credit is not available. But they say now there is a provision which says that we will decide which credit is available to you and which credit is not available to you. And the credits which are not available to you will be decided by the system on the basis of that if you have received inward supplies from a registered person who is a newly registered person, then we may restrict the credit. अगर आपने किसी नए registered person से credit दिया, मैंने आज registration ली, आपको invoice काट के दिया, then this system may restrict the credit. Obviously, there will be rules which will come out. They will prescribe the amount, they will prescribe the period, and many other things. So in the I think 1.5 years back, we already had some guidelines on this, that a newly registered person can pass on credit only up to 50 lakh rupees and he cannot pass on credit of crores. So again, now they are giving it a legal backing. So at the time of giving legal backing, they have also restricted my credit. So if there is a newly registered person, if he is supplying certain goods or services to me, then there may be an issue that I am not eligible for the credit. Again, we will have to see what are the precise rules, what are the restrictions that are imposed. But now, if I'm dealing with a newly registered person, there will be some credit blockages for an interim period. Then, if the registered person from whom I have received the supply, all these restrictions are based on my supplier. ये जो conditions है ना जो मेरा credit restrict कर रहे हैं, ये सारे supplier के point of view से. I am eligible to take the credit, or I am looking for my credit eligibility. I am checking my GSTR2B, and my GSTR2B has two categories: eligible and ineligible. मैं अपना टू बी देख रहा हूं जिसके दो हिस्से हैं, एलिजिबल और इनएलिजिबल, और मेरे इनएलिजिबल किसके ऊपर डिटरमिन हो रहे हैं? जो मेरे सप्लायर्स हैं. सो बेस्ड ऑन माय सप्लायर्स प्रोफाइल, my credits will be eligible or ineligible. The first category is if the supplier is a newly registered supplier. The second category is if he has defaulted in the payment of taxes. He has not paid the taxes. He is only filing GSTR1. He is not filing GSTR3B. Or the third category is he's filing GSTR1, he's filing GSTR3B, but in GSTR1 he is showing liability as 1 crore, in GSTR3B he is paying only rupees 1 lakh rupees. So my liability in one is more, amount paid is less. Even then the system will restrict my credit. The fourth category is if the amount my supplier has taken excess credit. Look at the situation of the recipient. He's purchasing goods, he's purchasing services from Mr. X, and my credit is being restricted because X has violated some provision. He has taken an excess credit, so my credit will be restricted. Then, if he has defaulted in payment of taxes in accordance with section 4912, basically in simple words, if he has not complied with rule 86B, he was required to pay at least 1% through cash ledger. But because my supplier has not paid credit through cash ledger, I will not be eligible to the credits. And lastly, they have not restricted over here. They have said such other persons as we may prescribe. So in total, if I summarize this particular provision, so they have given that the GSTR2B will be the statement that will be auto-generated. That will have two parts. One where the credit will be eligible, and in the second category where credit is not eligible. And the credit will not be eligible on the basis of 6 conditions. Newly registered person, he has not paid the taxes. Taxes in one are more, but payment is less. My supplier has taken excess credit. Fifth, he has defaulted in payment of taxes. He has not paid properly through cash ledger. And lastly, the government can come up with anything now and put that in a specified rule that even these persons, if you have made purchases from these persons, the credit will not be allowed. This is the ease of doing business. So earlier, my credit was only dependent on my activity. Then you said no, it should be reflected in GSTR 2A or 2B. Now, even after reflection in GSTR 2A, 2B, my supplier has to be very prudent supplier. He cannot make any mistake, because if he makes any mistake, my credit will be denied. And I wonder what will be the High Court's and Supreme Court's view on this particular amendment, especially considering Arise India judgment in case of VAT, wherein there is a settled law that you cannot punish the purchaser when he has not committed any mistake. You cannot expect the purchaser to do the compliances of the supplier. DY Bethel Enterprises, again a GST regime High Court judgment, which also states that how can you penalize a purchaser or a recipient when the default has been committed by the supplier. So those judgments, according to my understanding, still hold good. But definitely now there are two ways to deal with a particular amendment. One is what is my view and what is the practical view. If I continuously and blindly follow my view, then the possibility of litigation will be very high. So now we will have to change our mechanism. We will have to deal with only those kinds of suppliers, those who are properly complying with the provisions of GST law. So this section 38 is basically the only provision in this particular amendment which is very detrimental and not helping in ease of business from any stretch of imagination. Then the second amendment, the corresponding amendment was done in section 16 subsection 2. Section 16 subsection 2 provides me conditions. This after satisfying those conditions I am eligible to claim the credit. So section 16 to conditions बताता है जिसको satisfy करता हूं तो I am eligible to claim the credits. So earlier we had 4 conditions: tax paying document, receipt of goods or services, filing of GST return, and the taxes should actually be paid. Then they inserted that the amount should also be reflected in GSTR 2B section 16 to AA made effective from 1st of January 2022. Now they have also inserted that even the credits should be available credit in terms of section 38. If it is a restricted credit, you are not eligible to claim the credit. And then there is a small amendment in section 16(2)(c) where they have removed section 43A because it is omitted. So ये इसको मैं discuss नहीं कर रहा. I'm not discussing section 43A. Section 43A per se has been omitted. It was the new return filing mechanism which never saw the light of, which was never actually implemented. So section 43A along with 42 and 43 have been now discontinued or have been omitted. But if I go back to section 16(2) again. So originally there were 4 conditions: invoice, receipt, return, the return should be filed and the tax should actually be paid. Then they inserted a new condition, section 16(2) AA, that the credit must be reflected in GSTR 2B. And now this proposed amendment states that the credit should also be reflected as eligible credit and it should not be a restricted credit. And the restriction we have already discussed. The restriction can be in case of a newly registered person. He has not made the tax payment. He has not discharged GST tax liability in 3B, which is equal to GSTR 1. He has taken excess credit. He has not paid tax in cash, which he was required to do. And lastly, the government in future can notify any person which he feels that this should also be the category where the credit should not be allowed. So technically, it is not now what we receive or what we feel that the input tax credit. As soon as I purchase a particular goods or services, I receive a document, I make the payment. That is now not the condition of availing the credits. The government will cross-verify whether the purchases are made from a supplier who is so well versed with everything that there is no mistake, there is no fraud, there is no, not even a fraud. If he has taken excess credit, your credit will be denied. So these are additional obligations which have been inserted by these amendments. And as I've already said, this was the major blockhead or the major negative amendment that has come in GST regime. Again, it is a proposed amendment and definitely we should try to raise our voice that this restriction of these 6 conditions is not acceptable, and maybe we have a suitable amendment before it is passed through Lok Sabha. Then section 16 subsection 4, this amendment is a favorable amendment. Our credits are restricted. For example, 21-22, the year in progress. Earlier I was eligible to claim the credits up to due date of September 2022. अगर मेरे को 21-22 का कोई क्रेडिट लेना था, so my last date was due date of GSTR 3B of September return. Now they have amended this provision and they have said instead of due date of September, it will be 30th November. But if we carefully understand this amendment, it is now 30th November and it is now not linked with any return. मैं क्या कहना चाह रहा हूं? Earlier my credit was restricted with 2 things. First, I should claim those credit latest by due date of my September return, and it should have been the September return. I could not have claimed it in the October return. But now they have de-linked. Now they say the last date is 30th November. You file your return for October 2021. Before 30th November, you are eligible. You file it before due date, after due date, it is irrelevant. You file January 2022, the current month or the due return, or in October, then also the credit will be eligible. So the only cutoff point or the distinction point is when you are filing the return and what are the credits in that particular return. So it is now not linked with any return. It is the date up till which we can claim the credits. It is a beneficial amendment. The date has been technically now we have a grace period of 1 month. Earlier it was 20th, 22nd or 24th October. Now it has been extended till 30th of November. And this 30th November due date has been provided, or the cutoff date of September has been changed everywhere in GSTR 1, in GSTR 3B, wherever the possibility of amendment was there, even in TCS return. We will see in the next slide. This cap of 30th November has been changed everywhere. So this was the third amendment that we have discussed. The first amendment was section 38, restricting credits in GSTR 2B. Then section 16.2, giving credits only after satisfaction of section 38. Then section 16.4, due date to claim the credit has been increased from September to 30th of November. Similarly, section 34, which allows me to issue a credit note and reverse my output tax. I made a particular supply, मैंने कुछ माल बेचा, and there was certain reduction or there was a sales return. Then I can issue a credit note. But that credit note was also capped by 30th of September. The credit note should have been issued by 30th of September. Now that limit has also been extended. Instead of September, it will be 30th of November. Here we have complete 60 days additional to issue a credit note. Earlier I was required to issue the credit note by 30th September. Now it will be 30th of November. The fifth amendment is in relation to cancellation of registration, and these are basically not amendments, correction or removal of anomalies in law. The blue portion in the clause B and C are the amendments, and the green which has been deleted are the earlier law or the existing law which is now being proposed to be changed, and the new law will be in the blue form. So the first change is in section 29 subsection 2 clause B. This provision deals with cancellation or suspension of registration by the proper officer. If the department wishes to cancel my registration, then there were certain conditions which were listed. If those conditions were satisfied, the departmental officer can cancel my registration or suspend my registration. One of those conditions was that if I am a composition dealer, I am now discussing clause B, a person paying tax under section 10. यानी अगर मैं composition dealer होता या composition dealer हूं, if I am a composition dealer and if I have not furnished my return for consecutive 3 periods, then my registration could have been cancelled. And now we all know that for a composition dealer, there is only an annual return which has to be filed. So now they have changed it that instead of 3 consecutive periods, it will be 3 months from the due date of said return. So जो composition dealer को return file करनी है, वहां से 3 महीने तक if he has not filed the return, then his registration can be cancelled. In clause C, I am reading the first, what was the existing law. Any registered person other than a person registered in clause B, that is normal registered person, has not furnished return for a continuous period of 6 months. So if there was a person who has not filed his return for a continuous period of 6 months, then his registration could have been cancelled. Obviously, the department was first required to issue a show cause notice, and only then the registration would have been cancelled. But now they have taken the power that we will prescribe in rules. We will prescribe in rule that the specified period can be 6 months, it can be 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, whatever the period is. Basically, now they will not have to come back to the parliament to change 6 months to 4 months, 5 months, 3 months, or 2 months. What I can foresee is that sooner or later it will be 3 months. That if I have not filed my return for a continuous period of 3 months, then my registration may be cancelled. As of now, the law is 6 months. The government has taken the power that they will prescribe what is the period for continuous period for which if return is not filed, they can cancel the registration. Again, there will be, after this section is notified, we will have an amendment in the GST rule which will prescribe the time limit. It can be 6 months, which is already existing. It can be a lesser period also. These, then the sixth amendment is in relation to section 37. Section 37 is my return of outward supplies, that is GSTR1 or IFF. Section 37 deals with GSTR1 or IFF. What are the changes in section 37? The first change is they have obtained powers that we can provide additional condition and restriction for filing of GSTR1 and 3B. So what are those conditions or restrictions that may be provided in the future when the provision is notified? And also what I have seen during this entire process is that the government has now mentioned this provision that subject to such condition and restriction as may be prescribed at various places wherever it was not mentioned earlier. ये जो power है ये इन्होंने आंखें बंद करके almost सब provisions में डाल दी है, so that in future there is no possibility of someone running into high court and saying that they never had the power in this particular provision. So now they are taking the powers so that when the rule, it could be possible that the rule already exists. For example, rule 86B, which already exists, which mandates 1% of payment through cash ledger. And to back that rule, we will see in the next slides that section 49 subsection 12 has been inserted newly. So it is possible that they are inserting new provisions for already existing rules, or they are amending the provision for future to safeguard that if there is any amendment, they are not being challenged on the ground that the government did not have the power. So nothing major in this. Then there was a theoretical provision that the law said that I cannot file my GSTR1 during the period 11th to 15th, because in the earlier regime my GSTR1 due date was 10 to 15 I was required to file my GSTR2, and after that I was required to file GSTR3, and during the filing of GSTR2, GSTR1 was restricted. Since the law the provision was never implemented, now they have deleted the proviso, and the corresponding amendment proviso and proviso further that was done in subsection 1. So basically यहाँ पे कोई change नहीं है. Section 37 subsection 1 there is no major change, but subsection 2 again matching principle, it was never implemented, so they have omitted. The most important change in section 37 is that earlier the amendments in GSTR1 could have been done up till September return. Now they have again extended it till 30th of November. So जहां पे भी amendment rectification का time September था, you can blindly say now it is up till 30th of November, and it is now not linked with any invoice or any return. It is 30th of November. If you file your return by 30th of November of any period, you can amend it. So that is the simple understanding which I have, which I can conceive through the amendment, that now they have not specified any return specific period. Now they say up till 30th of November you can make the amendment. You do it in October return, September return, August return, March return, January return, that is irrelevant. The amendment should be made till 30th of November. So GSTR1 can be amended by 30th of November. That is the change up till now. Going forward, now they have inserted a new subsection. Again, this subsection basically restricts filing of GSTR1. We already have a provision in GST rules which says that if I have not filed my GSTR1 of period X, then I cannot file GSTR1 of period X plus 1. So now they have inserted that provision in the Act also, again to empower that nobody in future goes to the High Court and say that there was no provision of this. But at the same time, in the proviso, they have also taken the power to relax this particular restriction. For example, currently they have said in the main section they say कि अगर मैंने जनवरी की रिटर्न नहीं फाइल करा, जनवरी का मंथ फाइल नहीं किया, आई कैन नॉट फाइल माय जीएसटीआर 1 ऑफ फेब्रुअरी. फेब्रुअरी का फाइल नहीं किया तो मैं मार्च का नहीं कर सकता हूं. बट दे हैव टेकन द पावर that they can specify that even if you have not filed the return of X period, you can file return of the succeeding period. When this power will be used, nobody knows. But definitely they have taken the power so that in case of future emergency period, if it is required, they can skip, they can give an option to the taxpayer that you file the other returns, that return will be pending due to XYZ reason. We will have to see what is the objective behind this. No clarity is also, I could not get any clarity even in the memorandum also. But now the government has the power that they can bypass this restriction that you are required to file the previous GSTR file. As of now, we can say it is a theoretical amendment. Let's see when the government will actually use this power. Because this is beneficial to the taxpayers in which they are allowing कि आप जनवरी का GSTR 1 फाइल करे बिना फरवरी का फाइल कर दो. So I don't think it will be used very aggressively. So at this juncture, we complete the amendment in relation to section 37. Basically, two amendments hai. GSTR 1 can be amended till 30th of November. Then I can file my GSTR 1 only if the previous returns have been filed. Now, there are amendments in section 39. Section 39 is my return section. The first amendment is for non-resident taxable person. Earlier, he was required to file his GSTR 5 return by 20th of next month. Now they have reduced the time limit from 20th to 13th. So they have reduced the time limit to file the GST return of a non-resident taxable person. Then in subsection 7, they have removed this proviso and inserted a new proviso. Basically, this proviso is nothing but allowing or giving power to QRMP mechanism in which it says that you can pay the actual liability or you can pay 35 and the balancing in the third month or in the return of in the quarter period. I'm restating it. Subsection 5, the amendment is that they have reduced the time limit for filing of GST return of non-resident taxable persons. In subsection 7, it talks about payment of taxes, that you will have to pay the taxes by the end of a specified period. For monthly by monthly, and for quarterly it should be quarterly. For quarterly also it was monthly. Now they are saying that for a quarterly dealer, instead of calculating the actual amount, he can use the mechanism which can be provided in the rules. That is a fixed formula which is already implemented. That is 35% for the first month, 35% for the second month, and the balancing figure in the third month. So they are now giving it a statutory backing. तो जो QRMP provisions आए थे rules के अंदर, उसमें जो payment mechanism था, that payment mechanism is again given a legal backing in the act. That is what I am saying. In this entire framework, what I am seeing is that section 38 is the main amendment, and we will see there is an amendment in section 50 also. Basically, there are three amendments: section 38, section 50, and amendment. From September, it has been shifted to November. These are the three categories of amendment that we will see. And all other amendments are giving legal backing to the already existing rules or ensuring that they have a power to issue a new rule in the subsequent periods. Section 39, again, they have removed section 30, reference to section 37 and 38. GSTR 3B can also be rectified till 30th of November. So earlier, all the adjustment of a particular year were required to be done by September. Now I can do it by 30th of November. So blindly, you can say that जहां पे September की capping थी, it has been moved till 30th of November and without linking with any return. You can do it in the month of return of October 2022, September 2022, March 2022. It is not restricted. Then they have also brought in the provision or empowerment that if I have to file my GSTR 3B of a particular month, then previous month GSTR 3B as well as GSTR 1 must be filed. Again, giving legal backing to the already existing provision. तो मैं GSTR 3 भी कब फाइल कर सकता हूं? जब प्रीवियस मंथ का GSTR 1 और GSTR 3 भी ऑलरेडी फाइल्ड है. So the provisions are already made. Now they are trying to give them a legal backing and also ensuring that it cannot be challenged in future. Another amendment, section 41. This was earlier it was provisional claim of credit, that whatever credit you are taking will be provisional, and once they are matched it will be actual credit. But since the matching provision per se is being removed, so now they have replaced this provision and they have inserted a new provision. And I would like everyone to read this provision verbatim because I could not understand this provision. I am reading it for everyone. Every registered person shall, subject to such conditions and restrictions as may be prescribed, be entitled to avail the credit of eligible input tax as self-assessed tax. So whatever credit I will take, it will be a self-assessed input tax credit. In his return, and such amount shall be credited to the electronic credit ledger. So it is saying that you can claim the credits on self-assessment basis and it will be reflected in my credit ledger. No confusion in subsection 1. The only thing they are trying to say is that now you are claiming the input tax credit as self-assessed input tax credit. Okay, sir. Now the important provision. The credit of input tax availed by a registered person under subsection 1 in respect of such supplies of goods or services or both, the tax payable whereon has not been paid by the supplier. So you have availed a credit, the tax on which has not been paid by the supplier, so you will be required. Yeah, the credit shall be reversed along with applicable interest by the said person in such manner as may be prescribed. I have taken a credit which is not the tax amount was not paid by the supplier. I will have to reverse the amount with applicable interest. Reading the proviso, provide just a minute. 40. Actually, there is a line in my laptop, so I could not read from there. Provided that where the said supplier makes payment of the tax payable in respect of the aforesaid supplies, the registered person may re-avail the amount of credit reversed by him in such manner as may be prescribed. So, I'm again trying to dissect. I claimed a credit. My supplier has not paid the taxes. So the law says you are required to reverse the credit. My first question. Now section 38 is telling me that these are eligible credit and these are not eligible credit. And in the ineligible or the restricted credit, you have already captured through your artificial intelligence whether the supplier has paid the taxes or not. Once you say that the credit is eligible credit, how can it be possible that there may be a situation wherein you can say the supplier has not paid the taxes? Assuming that in future a person takes the credit himself, ignoring GSTR 2B, he claims the credit. Okay, sir, very good. The department comes to him and his department points out that these taxes have not been paid by the supplier, so you are required to reverse. He reverses the credit. He reverses the credit with interest. On a future date, my supplier pays the amount. My supplier pays the amount. The law says you can reclaim the credit. When I will reclaim the credit, what is the status of interest? My first issue, because you will claim the interest from the supplier. Supplier made a supply in say January 2022. You will claim interest from the supplier from January 2022 from the date from which I claim the credit. Then second issue, if the tax is paid after 3 years, after 4 years, after 5 years, that is after section 16.4, the time limit of section 16.4, whether there is any time limit on reclaim of assets, these issues will be should be properly taken care of by the department when the corresponding rules are made, that there should not be any restriction on reclaim of such credits. So today I will claim the credits. I will reverse the credit on account of non-payment, and then I will persuade my supplier to pay the tax, and as and when he pays, I should be eligible to claim the credit without any restriction, without any limitation of time on it, that it should be paid by 30th of November. It could be 31st December, it could be 2 years, 3 years, 5 years down the line. If he has paid the taxes, you have got the taxes, you have got the interest amount. So both my tax and interest should be refunded to me. Again, this is my view that the rules should be framed accordingly, but since the rules are not yet available, so I have some my reservation on this. First reservation is, after section 38, technically it should not be possible that it is reflected in my credit account, it is reflected in the credit eligible account, and after that you come to me and say that you have taken a wrong credit. And if it is restricted credit, then as per section 16.2, I was never eligible for it. And since I was never eligible for it, I cannot claim the credit. So I think let us see what are the interpretation of other speakers on this, so that we can conclude this on a better note. Then section 42, 43, 43A, 42, 43, 43A, all these have been omitted. These were basically matching of GSTR1, GSTR2, and lastly, the new return filing mechanism, which never was practically introduced. So all these provisions have been omitted from the Act. Section 10, late fee, levy of late fee. So since GSTR2 is not required, now they have amended inward supplies in section 38, because now it is very clear the government will continue with 1 and 3B, and they will try to link these two forms and make it an auto-populated system. But now GSTR2 will never see the light. It is now a scrap. It is now removed from the law. The matching principle is now removed from the law. It will be a one-sided form. Definitely, you can communicate to the taxpayer through the portal, but it is now a one-sided form. Supplier will send, you will take the credits. If there is any issue, you will contact the supplier that you have made certain mistake, amend it. You cannot do it directly through the portal, which was originally MSI. Now they have also inserted that in case you are a tax collector, then if you are filing your returns after the due date, then also the late fee will be applicable. Earlier, no late fee was being levied. Now they have inserted even the TCS return in the late fee provision. So now if there is any delay in TCS return, the late fee will be applicable. So two changes: they have removed GSTR late fee on GSTR2 because it does not exist. They have included a late fee of TCS returns, that is section 52, in the late fee provision. Section 49, again, two amendments were omission and taking the power, such conditions and restriction. I am not discussing that. The other important change was, now a taxpayer, earlier a taxpayer could do one thing. If he has 100 rupees in his CGST cash ledger, if he has rupees 100 in CGST cash ledger, he could transfer it to IGST, LGST, cess amount, whatever the case may be. Now the government is stating that you can transfer the amount within the same GSTN, plus you can transfer the amount from one GSTN to a different GSTN of the same PAN. You can transfer. Again, this provision is applicable only for cash ledger amounts, not credit ledger amount. So amount lying in my cash ledger, I could have filed the refund. They would have given the amount to me in cash, and I could have utilized it in the second GSTN. So they, instead of filing a refund application, you just transfer cash ledger amount from one GSTN to another GSTN. The only condition is you should be having both the GSTN should be under the same PAN. Secondly, from where you are transferring, where the amount is already lying, there should not be any liability in the liability register. There should not be any existing liability. If there is any liability, first pay that liability, only then you can transfer. So again, it is a beneficial provision that we can transfer cash ledger amount from one GSTN to another GSTN, especially for government contractors. Earlier, they had TDS credits which were piling up, or e-commerce operator whose credit was piling up, and he has multiple registrations. So now they can transfer credit from a cash ledger amount from one GSTN to another GSTN. Then the other amendment in section 49 was, again, it is giving backing to rule 86B, that the government can restrict your use of credit. We already have rule 86B, which restrict that I cannot exceed, I have to mandatorily pay 1% through cash ledger if I am not a big taxpayer, or if I am not a small taxpayer, or if I have not paid decent amount of income tax, etc. So there are certain relaxation. So technically this 4912 is again not bringing in any new provision. Maybe they use it in future to bring in other amendments in the rules, but they have now covered rule 86B also with this provision, that if somebody goes and challenge rule 86B that there is no provision in the law, they can always say that 4912 now has been amended. But definitely we can say that it is a prospective amendment. So rule 86B should be prospective, and all the activities done prior to that are unconstitutional, invalid, etc. That argument can always be taken. Moving ahead, section 12, amendment 12 in section 50. Section 50, interest provision. Now it is a beneficial amendment, and it is this amendment was already discussed in the September meeting of the council, wherein they said two things. One, if you have availed the credit plus utilized the credit, which was never eligible to you. So you have availed plus utilized, which was never eligible, then you are required to pay the interest. And if there was only availment but no utilization, then no interest was required. मेरा credit था 1,000 rupees. Wrongfully I took at 10,000 rupees. I have never utilized 10,000 rupees, and I am reversing 9,000 with credit ledger only. So the law says the council said that you are not required to pay any interest because you have never utilized that credit for payment of taxes. So you are not required to pay any interest. But if you have utilized, then you are required to pay interest also. And the issue arose, what will be the interest rate? So now they have amended the rate notification, interest notification also, and retrospectively they have reduced the rate to 18%. So if there is any confusion, 24, if you have already paid interest at the rate of 24%, you can file a refund claim for 6% excess that you have paid, because it has been retrospectively amended, the notification, to give impact that maximum interest will be 18%, and it will be only where interest credit has been availed as well as utilized. अगर utilize नहीं किया तो कोई interest नहीं लगेगा, कोई obligation नहीं आएगा. Then 14th amendment, section 52 subsection 6, यानी जो मेरे TCS electronic commerce operator होते हैं, again they can amend their return by 30th of November. I've already said this time and again in this duration. Wherever there was a time limit for any amendment up till September, it has now been moved to 30th of November. Section 15 for some cosmetic changes and one important change. First, earlier cash ledger amount could have been claimed as refund through GSTR 3. But in GSTR 3B, the actual implemented form, there is no option to claim the refund of cash ledger amount. So they have removed section 39 and said such form and manner. So if you are claiming any refund of cash ledger, you have to do it through RFD 01. So it is only a correction or a removal of an anomaly which existed.
Second, इस पे क्लिक कर लेना हाइड पे ना, कई बार वो कट जाता है फिर आपका. Yes, thank you.
The second change in refund provision is that earlier the UN organization, those entities which were holding a UIN, unique identification number, they could claim refund up till 6 months from the quarter in which the supply was received. Now the government has extended the time from 6 months to 2 years from the last day of the quarter when the supply is received. So UIN holders are now being given additional time to file refund application. There was no major change in the first category. It was obvious that RFD 01 is being used. Second change in refund provision is that the time limit for UIN refund holders has been increased from 6 months to 2 years. Now the government has, there was a provision in section 54, refund provision, that if there is any default, any liability which is already existing in a taxpayer, then they can withhold the refund. But the withholding was limited only for input tax credit covered under section 54 subsection 3. My refund can be of various categories: exports with payment of taxes, excess payment of taxes, wrong payment of taxes, amount lying in cash ledger, XYZ. There can be plethora of refund application. Earlier, the restriction of withholding my refund was applicable only for inverted duty structure and exports without payment of taxes or SEZ supplies without payment of taxes. तो मेरी 12 से 15 रिफंड एप्लीकेशन हो सकती थी, उसमें से सिर्फ 3 या 4 कैटेगरीज को उठाया उन्होंने, बोला इन्वर्टेड ड्यूटी स्ट्रक्चर वाला रिफंड हो हम विदहोल्ड कर सकते हैं, एक्सपोर्ट्स विदाउट पेमेंट था हम विदहोल्ड कर सकते हैं, SEZ without payment tha, we could withhold the refund. But now they say if it is a refund application, we can withhold it if the specified provision is covered, or the specified provision is applicable. So if there is any amount which is outstanding, then they can withhold it irrespective of the nature of refund. Earlier it was restricted only for refunds of input tax credit. Now any kind of refund can be withheld. So practically they were already withholding the amounts. Theoretically they have amended the provision now, or they are proposed to amend the provision. Another change in section 51. This is actually not a change, but the due date to claim the refunds in relation to SEZ supplies was missing. The relevant date was missing. So I am eligible to claim the refund from 2 years from the relevant date. I can file my refund application within 2 years from the relevant date. Relevant date is defined in section 54 in explanation para number 2. In that explanation, there was no mention of SEZ supplies. Now they have specifically categorized or mentioned that in case of SEZ supplies, the relevant date will be the due date of furnishing of return. So practically also we were using that the refund should be filed within 2 years from the relevant due date. So now they have brought this amendment in the act that SEZ refunds should be applied within 2 years from the due date of furnishing of return under section 39, that is GSTR 3B. So section 54, there are 3 important changes. One is that UIN holder can file refund now instead of 6 months to 2 years. Second, my refunds can be withheld irrespective of their nature. Third, the relevant date for refund filing of SEZ is now prescribed in the law, which is from the due date. Coming on to the last categories of our amendment. So basically in clause 108, they have omitted the word section 38, irrelevant. Clause 113, they have again removed section 38. The erstwhile section 38, that is basically GSTR 2. Since GSTR 2 is now outside the GST law, so they have made the corresponding amendments. Another important change, and I have to actually see, is there any mistake, or has the government just passed on or eyewashed this mistake? The government has issued a notification on 22nd of June 2017 notifying gst.gov.in as the common portal for filing of GST returns. Then there were further notifications in which they notified e-waybill.gst.gov.in as the common portal for again filing or generating e-way bills. Then e-invoice portal was notified for generating e-invoices. Now they have retrospectively amended the first notification and said that gst.gov.in is the common portal for all the functions provided in the GST Act, that is filing of refund application, filing of appeals, filing of rectification, filing of registration applications, everything. I don't know which was actually missing, but now they have. Practically, there is no major use. We all know that the major or the basic of GST portal was gst.gov.in. but theoretically there would have been certain mistake which is now corrected retrospectively from 22nd of June 2017, that common portal for all the functions will be gst.gov.in. Again, it is a theoretical amendment. Until and unless one has a very good case, they can go. GSTR 3B is a valid return. The return filing portal was already notified. You cannot go to the High Court and say that gst.gov.in it was not a common portal for filing of return. For filing of return, it was the common portal that was notified already. But there were many other functions for which we use gst.gov.in, but it may not have been specified. But now they have used all functions provided in the GST rules. The other amendments were there is one small category which has been amended retrospectively from 1st July 17 to 30th September 19. 1st July 17 to 30th September 19, that in case there is unintended waste generated, I am reading it for the sake of everyone, central tax, union territory tax, and integrated tax on supply of unintended waste generated during the production of fish meal falling under heading 2301, except fish oil, is being exempted during the period commencing from 1st day of July 2017 and ending with 30th September 2019. There is no new notification that is actually issued. They are saying that 1st July 17 to 30th September 2019, if there is any unintended waste generated from production of fish meal, it is amended. It is exempted. In case you have already paid the taxes, don't come to us for refund. If you have not paid, it is exempted. After 30th of September, it will be taxable as per normal rate. So there was some clarification way back in 2019, based on which they have given this clarification or exemption that retrospectively we are exempting from 1st July to 30th of September 2019. Then a similar amendment or adjustment was required in case of licenses for alcoholic liquor for human consumption. So in 2019, the government clarified that GST is not chargeable on supply of alcoholic liquor for human consumption, for which the state government charges some amount and the tax would have been paid under reverse charge. So they have said that it is exempted, it is neither supply of goods nor supply of services. But the problem was the notification was issued in 2019, that is specifically 30th of September 2019. So issue was, what is the status before 30th of September 2019? So government said, if you have not paid the taxes, no issues, we are exempting it retrospectively. If you have already paid the taxes, don't come for us for refunds. So if you have paid, that will be with the government, no refund. But if you have not paid, the amount will be exempted. Again, where the taxes have already been paid and you can identify the buyer, seller, and you can prove the provisions of unjust enrichment, definitely the matters can be taken to High Court and saying when the levy never existed, when the government never had the power to collect the taxes, how can they keep those taxes? So these grounds can be taken wherever though the amounts have actually not been have been paid and the amounts are humongous or they are huge, and the litigation cost can help you recover the amount. So these were the 16 categories, but in nutshell, I would like to say there are three major amendments: Section 38 and Section 16(2). 38 says that 2B will give you two types of credit: eligible, restricted. Restricted can be on account of newly registered person, on account of non-payment of tax by the supplier, on account of short payment of tax by the supplier, on account of excess claim of credit by the supplier, on account of non-payment of tax in cash by the supplier. सारे सप्लायर की गलती और भुगतना मुझे पड़ेगा. लास्टली, अगर इसके बाद भी हमें कहीं पे लगा कि इस सप्लायर का क्रेडिट नहीं देना, we can notify. So the first category is restriction in input tax credit. The second category is Section 50, Subsection 3, wherein they have said that if the credits have been availed and utilized, only then we will charge interest. Otherwise, no interest, and the rate of interest will be 18%, and the amendment has been done retrospectively. And the third major amendment is wherever there is any rectification that is to be done under GST of GSTR 1, 3B, or claiming of credit, TCS return, whatever the date, issue of credit notes, wherever the earlier date was September, it has now been shifted to 30th of November. So these were the major changes, or rather all the changes. I have tried to cover each and everything, and I hope that I have justified it. So thank you for the patient hearing. And in case we have any queries, we can try to take those queries also.
Yes, few queries are there. Let's see. अशोक झा जी की query है. How the GST 2 will recognize about suppliers default, and what will happen if system shows ineligible ITC wrongly can be rectified manually.
Sir, how will the system GST to be recognized? That is what I was trying to understand. Ki how will they know that the tax? So definitely they will implement some AI, and we all know that GST amendments are notified not from the date when the presidential assent is received, but from a specified date. So now they have already taken the power, they have already incorporated the law. They will notify it when their system is ready at the back end, wherein GSTN will identify whether the supplier has paid the taxes on that particular amount or not. But the issue will be, yes, I am the supplier. I reported 1 crore as my liability in GSTR 1. I have paid 10 lakh rupees as GSTR in GSTR 3B. So now they will restrict credit of 1 crore rupees, but actually they should give credit at least to 10 lakh people, or to the amount of 10 lakh people. Again sir, वो future में क्या होगा I don't know, and it will be AI, and since the data will be available with the GSTN, वो registration कब हुई उसको पता है, उसने excess credit लिया या नहीं लिया वो system prompt करके दे देगा, उसने 3B और 1 में tax का variance है या नहीं है वो system prompt कर देगा. So I think it will be AI that will come into the picture.
Another one from Arish. I was expecting Availed Tribunal to be set up and also petroleum products to come in GST.
Sir, as far as petroleum products are concerned, I am pretty sure in the foreseeable future, that is in another 2 to 3 years, petroleum will never come into GST. The only reason is, sir,
State.
understand the status of केजरीवाल. मेरे पास रेवेन्यू कहाँ से आ रहा है? एक लिकर से
Exactly.
आ रहा है,
Liquor से and
पेट्रोल,
petrol.
हाँ जी, लिकर से आ रहा है, पेट्रोल से आ रहा है, तीसरा
Exactly.
जीएसटी है जिसमें मेरा कुछ कहने का नहीं है, काउंसिल बोलेगी तो होगा, नहीं तो नहीं होगा. तो जो स्टेट की ऑटोनॉमी है, यू हैव टू कंसिडर दैट दो इट इज अ लॉ, and if the amendment is actually done, it will favor many taxpayers, many business person. बट पॉलिटिशियंस का क्या होगा, उनके रेवेन्यू सोर्सेस का क्या होगा, उनकी ऑटोनॉमी का क्या होगा. तो इन फोरसीएबल फ्यूचर आई कैन नॉट सी पेट्रोलियम प्रोडक्ट्स कमिंग इनटू जीएसटी. And as regard setting up of tribunal, that is already in the law. It is only the will of the government that when they decide that we have to set up the tribunal, it will be just a matter of time to set up the tribunal. The law is already existing. It is only setting up the benches at specified places, say Delhi, Gurgaon, or Delhi, Mumbai, etc. So that is only a practical issue.
Why different are giving different ruling for same issues?
But how can I? मतलब I can only say one thing.
तरुण जी को आर का मेंबर बना दो.
नहीं सर, उससे क्या हो जाएगा?
वही
तो
तो कह रहा
या
हूँ
तो सारी जगह पे नई मेंबर होगा तो ठीक है.
एग्जैक्टली.
मैं
इट्स
बैठा
नॉट.
हूँ, आप बैठे हो, तो सबकी इंटरप्रिटेशन है. सर आप
एग्जैक्टली.
ये देखिए कि जीएसटी के अंदर जो एआर्स को छोड़ दीजिए, आप हाई कोर्ट्स पे चले जाइए, इनकम टैक्स के सेटल्ड मैटर्स के अंदर अनसेटल कर देती हैं कई हाई कोर्ट,
एग्जैक्टली.
उसके अंदर नया व्यू लेके आ जाती हैं. तो दीज आर ओनली understanding of a particular person on that specified day and on the basis of who was representing. उसने क्या चीज उस समय पे बोली जो जज को स्ट्राइक कर गई, उस बेसिस पे वो जजमेंट्स आती हैं. So this will always be part of any litigation system की जहां पे we will have differences.
विजय गोयल जी का क्वेश्चन है. एज पर अमेंडमेंट इन सेक्शन 51, इंटरेस्ट इज टू बी पेड ओनली इफ इट इज अवेल्ड and unutilized, but as per section 73, interest is payable on ITC availed or unutilized. Which section will prevail?
Sir, section 73 is not the recovery section or the charging section for the interest. The charging section for interest is section 15. Section 73 is the section to issue a show cause notice, and it says that if these conditions are satisfied, then you are required to issue the show cause notice. तो वो तो show cause notice issue का है. जब मेरे टैक्स की लाइबिलिटी नहीं बनती, वो show cause issue करेगा, मैं 51 रेफर कर दूंगा. Section 73 as such does not levy the taxes. It only provides a mechanism that if there is any short payment, excess payment, or recovery which is due under any of the other provision, then we will issue the notice and recover the taxes.
Sanjay Narula ji, how to take ITC credit of earlier months which was not availed in earlier months?
How ITC, sir, the limitation of section 16 subsection 4 will apply. So for 21-22 the last date was 20th, 22nd or 24th of October, जो already जा चुकी है. So if you have claimed the credit, very good. If you have not claimed the credit, then it will be a question mark. For 22-23, the last date will be now 30th of November 2022. So आप ये देखो आप कौन से साल की बात कर रहे हो, accordingly you will be able to take.
आरिश का एक प्लीज शेयर योर ओपिनियन ओवरऑल डिसअपॉइंटमेंट इन बजट्स. अभी आपको बता तो दिया, इट्स ए लॉन्ग टर्म बजट, दूरदर्शिता रखिए आप बिल्कुल.
सर मतलब मैं अगर जीएसटी में सेक्शन 38 नहीं आता तो आई वुड हैड बीन सेटिस्फाइड. ठीक है, कंसीडरिंग द ओवरऑल सिचुएशन, द कोविड सिचुएशन, द रिकवरी पाथ वी आर सीइंग, बट डेफिनेटली ड्यूरिंग टू कंट्रोल द मेस द गवर्नमेंट are putting on harsh provisions on the business person, so that was wrong. That is actually wrong. Section 38 I am unable to digest. यार सप्लायर की गलती की वजह से मेरे क्रेडिट मार दिए, उसने एक्सेस ले लिया, तो मेरी क्या गलती है? तुम रिस्ट्रिक्ट कर दो ना उसको कि वो क्रेडिट ना ले सके. So definitely section 38 is not something good, but सिर्फ section 38 पे we cannot judge the entire budget. I agree with Vinod ji that ITC availment is now has been made very difficult. मतलब you will have to, मतलब in case you are having a turnover of say running into multiple 100 crores, for example 600 crores, 700 crores, then it will be a hectic task. Who has paid, who has not paid, who has not filed the return, all these analysis will be humongous.
स्लाइड्स काफी लोग मांग रहे हैं. आई डोंट थिंक सो स्लाइड्स में कुछ ऐसा है आपका, वही आपने उठाया होगा वहां से. ये अगर ऐसा है तो विल आस्क फॉर द, कोई इशू नहीं है, विल आस्क फॉर दैट.
I will share it.
हाँ हाँ. So if you have any other query, so you can ask. Otherwise, my sincere thanks to Tarun ji for such a wonderful deliberation in a very short span of time, because I think 1:30 तो उनका बजट प्रेजेंटेशन ओवर हुई थी, and within 4-5 hours तरुण जी ने सारा पीपीटी भी बना ली, and it's in front of us, and thank you for sharing your valuable knowledge and answering all the queries. So definitely in the meantime, after a week or 10 days, जब पूरी clarity आ जाएगी, then again we'll call Tarun ji for his valuable remarks. So till then, bye bye, take care. Thank you Tarun ji once again.
Thank you.